Hello, welcome to the Product for Product podcast. It's Matt and Moshe here again to continue our discussion on the topic of product analytics. Today we're discussing a product called Heap. Heap is a product analytics solution for product managers that provides them with the data insights needed to improve the customer experience, hopefully leading to more conversions and retained users. We're happy to welcome our guest today, Dan Mark. Dan is a product manager and a user of Heap. Dan, please take a sec to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Definitely happy to be here. I'm currently a PM, PM number 1 at PocketSuite. We are an all-in-one kind of business management tool, and our kind of set of users is what we would call solopreneurs. So they are kind of businesses of one. They're running their own business, and you can think of them as, your dog trainer, your fitness trainer, your handyman, your cleaner, all kind of perfect segments for PocketSuite.
Excellent. And hi, Matt. Hi, Dan. Really happy to have you on the show over here. So thank you for the introduction and to also telling a bit about the company where you work for. And we'll dive right into Heap and product analytics. First of all, I'm interested to hear from you. When you were looking at different product analytics system, what are the use cases that you were looking at that you eventually choose Heap?
I would say, at least when I first joined PocketSuite, we, I don't know a great word for this, but we essentially had a analytics in place where we were able to bookend a question, if that makes sense. And I guess what I mean by that is we were able to put initiatives in place and kind of, drive them through the pipeline, but we were only really able to measure bottom of the funnel outcomes, right? So has churn decreased? Did we see more signups? But we weren't really able to be any more granular than that. And I would say that Heap has, Heap was one of the things that we were able to put in place fairly quickly and with, not a ton of effort or resources. It has allowed us to answer, what's going on in that sort of messy middle set of interactions.
Oh, interesting. So can you give our listeners maybe an example of what type of funnel are you looking at? Was it like a registration or usage of specific features or something like that?
Yeah. It's funny. We have, I think just a great use case for Heap. Mm-hmm. One of the first use cases we used it on was what we would call our offboarding funnel. Around the time that I came on, we just noticed I wouldn't say an uptick in churn, but just a higher churn rate than we were necessarily comfortable with. We had a few initiatives that we put in place, including higher touch account management by our support and success teams. And that overlapped with some product initiatives as well, like a new offboarding funnel that we had recently designed and implemented into Heap. With Heap in honestly a week worth of data, we were able to pretty much pinpoint that it was the kind of product-based offboarding experience that led to the reduce in churn. Whereas I think before we wouldn't have been able to distinguish, is it a product-based or kind of account management-based?
Oh, I see.
That's interesting. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I think that you mentioned to me before when we talked about it that you were looking at different systems and in the end you chose Heap. And maybe that's a start for us to talk about Heap specifically. What caused you to choose Heap over other systems?
Yeah, I think two things mainly. So at PocketSuite, we're a pretty early stage, fairly small team. Probably 15. I feel like I should know this number, but maybe 15 full-time employees. And one of the big things for Heap was just the ability to auto-capture events and define them myself. So I don't need to kind of grab an engineer and track events, or honestly even rigorously think about the events that I want to track before launching a feature.
Right.
With auto capture, we can track and then retroactively define those events.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's cool. And you mentioned another one?
Yeah, I mean, with the ability for us as PMs to go in and define events, we don't have to grab an engineer and pull him away from a feature project or a bug related task. We can go in and define those events ourselves. Honestly, I think for me, one of the biggest things there is I come from a background in chemistry and in academia, and really like to dive into events in analytics and just kind of go where the questions lead you, I guess, is a good kind of, a good statement
research.
There. And
research.
Exactly. And I feel like with some of those other solutions that are out there, eventually you're going to run into an issue where those events just aren't defined and you don't have access to it. And I just don't, with Heap, I don't have that issue right now.
That's pretty cool. We did talk in previous episodes with other users of other products, like Pendo was one, and Mixpanel was another, and that was also one of those differences between the systems, where Heap seems to take that approach of, and correct me if I'm wrong. So there is a one-time integration that the developer has to do to put it in the system, but then you have the ways or the means as a non-developer to go and define those events.
Yeah, I think we probably spent about 2 days in total implementing Heap into PocketSuite, and that's with very little maintenance over the past 2 years. I mean, I can't say that's a typical instance of Heap. I'm sure that there are companies out there using them that spend way more time into, sort of upkeep. But we just we don't need to.
Oh, that's great. When you were looking at Heap, was there any other tools that you were researching as well, like Mixpanel or Amplitude or something like that? Or was Heap kind of the one you had an eye on?
I would say Heap was the main one, just because of the flexibility. We did look at Mixpanel and Amplitude briefly. Mixpanel, I've actually implemented Mixpanel in the past, or at least got partially through an implementation before. I'm certainly not meaning to make this come off as a Heap commercial, but with Mixpanel, we just had to sit in a ton of meetings, rigorously define like the P1 events we want to track, right? It's like, is this a P1 or is this a P2? And what should we name it? And are all the naming conventions the same?
What do you mean by P1 and P2?
Like highest priority, what we want to implement first.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
And it's like, I'm not saying that there's not value there. I think there's a ton of value in thinking through, what you're doing necessarily before you do it. Yeah, I think sometimes when you're pretty early stage, you might value flexibility over that kind of upfront organization.
In general, agile, and it doesn't really matter if you're small or big, when you want to be agile, you want to have that type of flexibility, I think. One of the things that I many times, as a product manager myself, and in the past as a developer, I would focus on the strength of what my company is trying to achieve and what it's trying to build. And then everything else, if I can buy or outsource or whatever, I would, and try to reduce the time that the developers has to spend on these things. So I think that's really a great value over there. And something that you mentioned before that I wanted also to kind of raise to our audience, different implementation, and we didn't really mention it in previous episodes, but different implementation of the same product might look different at different organizations based on your needs, your size, your stage in your development. So it could be that in the future we will have additional episodes with other Heap users that might use it completely different or see other values that you might not see or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is your application web-based, mobile, or both?
So definitely both, in the sense that we have a website and actually a newly launched web app kind of desktop product. But we, at least for the history of PocketSuite, have been mobile first. I mean, our user base they're on the go pros. They're traveling from location to location. So we've really focused on on that kind of first and foremost.
So you needed also that type of flexibility, I'm sure, to track things no matter which platform they're on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and to be honest, it does get challenging because on our site, you don't have to log in to use the site, kind of the marketing site. So there is a bit of a challenge in the sense that, we don't necessarily have the ability to cross the web to mobile kind of chasm, I guess. If you land on the site and then download PocketSuite through the App Store, we don't necessarily know who that user is.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm sure it's a regular challenge to many people.
You mentioned marketing a second ago, and I was on the Heap site earlier, and they market to product teams, and they also market to marketing itself. So does it work well with marketing? Do you use a separate tool for marketing, or does it kind of sit at the center of everything?
Yeah, I would say at least in terms of marketing, our two main tools, at least on the analytics side, are Heap and GA. I am probably admittedly biased towards Heap just because you can get information like page views as well as form field and button taps.
Right.
So I think that gives us far more flexibility than something like GA.
Yeah, that's quite true. So related to the first learning curve and starting using it, how long did it take you guys to get into the right value of Heap?
Yeah, ROI is always an interesting conversation. I would say our story is probably a little bit unique because we did have that whole offboarding project that was hitting just as we implemented Heap, and we were able to see that we were substantially decreasing subscriber churn through this product-based initiative, and then we're able to kind of double down off of it.
So you did see a value right away.
We did. But I would say there is a learning curve for sure. I was thinking about, as I think we've onboarded more people into PocketSuite, there's two sorts of learning curves to Heap. One of the learning curves is, can you go in and start to define events and start kind of digging on your own? And that's maybe the more technical, kind of harder to pick up side of the learning curve. The second learning curve is, just for maybe members of a CS team or marketing, whatever that looks like. And that's really just like, can you go in and ask the right questions, right? Can you perform the necessary analyses to drill down? I think that learning curve is far easier than going in and being able to like define an event or page view or whatever that looks like.
Right. So the setup itself, you're saying, is a bit harder to do than the actual the insights that you find from that data.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the ability to define events yourself, you really want to make sure that you, I guess for lack of a better word, kind of have verified and know what you're doing there, because it can be, a bit key to, define a button and tap on one screen, and then, all of a sudden you have buttons named with button texts, the same text on other screens, and you're now picking up events coming from other areas of the app.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that problem. I experienced it in the past. and what I usually tell users when they start implementing systems like that is that you really have to also know how well your product is built and how the infrastructure and the architecture of your product and the way that the pages are being built. So it's good to have a developer that help you with that if you don't have that specific experience, because otherwise you might capture information. You think you're capturing information about element X, and then all of a sudden you really capture information about element X, Y, and Z because they're all named the same way or something like that. How well is Heap structured and the user interface to help you actually figure these things out?
I mean, I think to the earlier point too, I'm I'm far more on the design and UX side of product than necessarily the technical side. So I think Heap has actually probably made me understand our architecture quite a bit better than,
that's nice.
I did. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, a downside is I don't know that there are a ton of guardrails into, helping you, I don't know, I guess rigorously QA your events. I mean, I can see when I define an event, like obviously on the mobile side, like what view controllers those events are firing on, but I'm not necessarily sure, unless you are, in the weeds on the technical side, or you just picked up this knowledge through Heap, that you would think twice about, a next button tap being available on one controller, not another. So maybe an area of improvement there.
When you're setting up those events on a specific element on the screen, do you have a way, for example, to tell Heap that you only want to record it or collect the information for that specific page, or over all the pages on the system, or something like that?
Yeah, you can definitely filter it down that far.
Oh, okay. So if you can do it that far and you do it only on that page, usually there shouldn't be any duplicates or other buttons that are using the same element, because otherwise it's not going to be unique on the page, I think. But maybe I'm wrong there. I've been developing for many years, but it's been a while, so I'm a bit rusty on that part. But usually what I experience is that these issues happen when you want to track the same element on multiple pages, because there might be a control that is shared on different pages, or it's whatever it is. There could be a navigation control that appear on every page, so you want to control it to have it on every page. But then for some other reason, there is another control on some other page that is called the same thing. So that could be really something like a gotcha that you have to be aware of. Cool.
I think for us, I mean, if you define an event, in the staging view, you tap the events, you see it fire in the live kind of list of events. I mean, fairly easy to QA that sort of stuff. It may take a bit of time, but
yeah. And unfortunately, we are only having audio podcasts, so we can't really show our audience how it looks like, or even us. I mean, I'm not familiar with our Heap. I did see Heap in the past, but very briefly.
Yeah, I just logged on. I mean, I set up a free account. I watched the demo and stuff, but I haven't actually hooked up.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't used it yet.
So they do have a free demo version that people can look into it. So that's great. Now, I think that Heap, but correct me if I'm wrong, is only an analytics system. But do they have other features that are kind of outside of that scope of analytics?
Yeah, I mean, you guys might know this a little better than I do. I think Heap is, or at least our major use case is product analytics only.
Yeah, that's from what I've researched. Yeah, that seems to be the case. And that was the case with Mixpanel. In a previous discussion we had with a guest, they used Mixpanel. It sounded very much the same, like they were specialized in the analytics space, and they weren't really looking at the broader platform.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that with Mixpanel, they even had A/B testing, and they decided to get rid of that functionality and only focus on analytics without A/B testing. So that's interesting as well.
That is interesting. And given your background in science, Dan, I'm curious, like you obviously are into research with a science background. So what kind of experience do you have with Heap when it comes to A/B testing, segmentation, cohorts, and stuff like that? Have you guys used that research aspect?
Yeah, I would say in terms of defining segments and cohorts, it's something that I can do super easily within Heap. A/B testing, I think, is probably another challenge on our end. We don't, at least on site or in app, do your standard kind of more rigorous A/B testing that you expect to see out there. A lot of it is kind of the I would say kind of before and after analysis that that I think your true A/B testers tend to not necessarily be a fan of, if that makes sense. But yeah, we don't spend a ton of time, I guess you could say, setting up A/B tests, running those till completions, and then analyzing results.
Yeah, and do you export any of the information and use it with some other data analytics tools, like to almost like data warehouse or BI? Yeah. Do you do any of that?
Far less sophisticated there. We do want to get that set up and have an initiative planned this year to, I guess, get up to speed on the data warehouse side of things. But I export Heap data all the time into Google Sheets and do a bunch of analysis there.
Okay. Do they have any kind of dashboarding inside Heap or any kind of visualizations?
Yeah, I mean, dashboards are cool. We have this concept at PocketSuite of a release dashboard. So we'll tend to do a release every 2 weeks. That release, contains a few things that we've been working on and focused on, and that dashboard, that release dashboard, is the go-to dashboard for that release. So if one release is focused on an onboarding funnel, we'll have a dedicated dashboard to that release and the questions we're looking to answer there. I guess as well as just dashboards in general, right? Like onboarding funnels, offboarding funnels, conversion rates to X, Y, and Z.
I was wondering about we touched about it a bit before about segmentation, and you said it's pretty easy and you can do any segmentation that you want. What are these segmentation based on usually?
Yeah, for us, we tend to segment, I would say, either by a property of a pro, like our users, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So what industry are they in?
Okay.
Are they a paying customer or not?
So that will be like information that you will pass into Heap through your integration with them?
Yeah, it's a user property.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll also tend to segment things by, you can do a lot of things, but you can think about something like, all right, do users who land on the PocketSuite website and view the pricing page tap download or convert through web sign up at a higher rate than those who don't view pricing? So you can start to get pretty granular there.
So this is based on their usage of specific things in your application.
Yeah, I would say both usage based and property based.
Cool. And then you can create different type of reports or even those dashboard components to reflect those.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that's cool is there's kind of a compare feature within Heap, so you can just very quickly say, compare conversion rates on whatever you're looking at by users who are in this segment versus users who are not in this segment.
Okay, so it will almost like graph for you both comparisons and show you one next to the other.
Yep.
Yeah, like a trend. I think some call it a trend or nice. Yeah, that's I found that thing quite useful in the past. Awesome. What about the company behind the product? Do you have interaction with them? Do you feel that they support you well enough, etc.?
Yeah, it's always kind of funny. All of my interactions with Heap have been great. I probably don't reach out to them as much as they reach out to us. To be honest, they're super proactive, great team. We haven't needed a ton of help, or had a ton of feedback there. We're definitely not taking advantage of like their quarterly business reviews or anything like that. We just got going, and we're happy with it. Every few months, see an email in my inbox about just a check-in style email, like when I hop on a Zoom call and see how things are, maybe like quarterly business review style emails. But I will and have taken part in a few kind of work in progress, feature related, design related style conversations as well. So it's definitely nice to be included there, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that we like as product managers is to be obsessed about our clients. So it's nice to see when other companies are obsessed about us when we are their clients. So
yeah, that is great, especially since you're a startup, and they're taking the approach of trying to do right for you and make you better. I think that's exciting. They're not just worried about the bottom line or about revenue and about big customers. They're worried about all their customers. I think that is a great message. So glad to hear Heaps doing that.
Did they have a special pricing for you as a startup when you started?
We I don't know. We got a YC discount. I do know that, but in terms of their pricing tier, I know they have a free plan, and I know they have a plan for, I would say maybe lower traffic products. Other than that, I'm not sure about the specifics.
Sure, no worries. When you say YC, you mean Y Combinator, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if all of our audience are familiar with that, but that's a really good thing to have in your resume for a startup.
Right, Y Combinator is a very nice support to have for sure.
Exactly. I know people are wearing it as a badge of honor, so it's really cool. Cool. So I think these were really all the questions I had. Matt, did you have any other questions for that?
And Dan, you may have answered this earlier. From a product analytics standpoint, would you say that Heap has been a big benefit for your company, and given its ability to deliver insights and deliver analytics, could you be doing the work you're doing without it?
Yeah. So, I think when I think on what Heap empowers me to do, that's really to go into a meeting with very granular insights and support for the initiatives that I'm bringing to the table. I mean, I think before Heap, we were mainly like SQL database pulls of, for example, how many bookings were booked in X time period, and really trying to draw a line between some initiative that we put forth, some product initiative that we put forth, and that kind of ultimate goal. Now what I can say is, I know the full funnel, right? It's, it's this many booking button taps to this many form completions to this many, saves. So yeah, I would say that it's really empowered me to be able to fully make the case for my arguments.
That's good, and it sounds like automated insights. I mean, that's something you mentioned SQL Server, and you probably were working with SQL and trying to get down into the granular raw data. And some of the once you're at that level, you get a lot of unstructured data. You're not quite sure what you're dealing with, and you spend a lot of time there. And for people that aren't necessarily comfortable with that, you may have some people in your company that don't really want to deal with the messiness of data. I think some of these tools like Heap are great because they deliver those kind of insights so that you can act on them. I think that's a big thing, is about actionable insight. You don't have to worry about bringing different tables together with different joins, and you can actually go out and make an impact. That's what's exciting about the product analytics tool space in general. So
100%.
There is still an interesting, I think, point in there, because from what I've seen, some functionalities that a product analytics like Heap or Panda or Mixpanel can give you are not exactly the same as what you can get in your own database for the specific transactions that happen or things that happen specifically in your product. So there is still, I think, a need of combination of both. And that's where a data warehouse with some other analytics system that is not specifically product analytics, but it's more like merging the two into one space that can give you that overview. So if you are a product manager and you don't have SQL capabilities or developer capabilities from your past or from wherever, I won't say that a product analytics system like Heap or the others are going to take away that need. But I would say that And maybe that will be another theme for us to look into, Matt, in the future for data warehouses. How do we get all of these data from everywhere and try to make sense of that in one place?
Yeah, just to expand on that, like very briefly and give like a tangible example. I'll field requests sometimes from team members that say like, how many packages or how many services are booked in PocketSuite, and the only thing I can say is, how many times the save button or sell button is tapped on, right?
Exactly. Yes.
The other thing there is that, like, I mean, clients can book. We have an online booking site for all of our pros. Clients can book you online, right? So I only know if you've initiated an appointment from within PocketSuite, not how many total appointments.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
That's a very good point. And we don't really want to give this full power to those systems to tap into the data of our system, mainly because this is our proprietary information. And also there is many times regulation and privacy related information. So even the information that people enter on in the fields, you don't want those applications to capture, because some of the information is should be controlled under some regulations. Or security or whatever it is, so credit card information, PII information,
privacy law. Yeah,
exactly. So this type of analytics, you're absolutely right, and that was going exactly to that point that I was trying to make, that we still have to look into our own system to capture some of this. So the product analytics system out there that we're talking about are really only focusing on how users are using the system, meaning like how they interact with the system, what the flow they're going, are they going through a specific funnel, are they churning, are they, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I think of it and when I try to explain it, I think of it as like front end analytics, right?
Yes.
How are users interacting with, the front end of your products?
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah,
that is good. I like that too. And then you bring in a data science aspect where you start to find correlations between. I agree, Moshe. You need to have both. They complement each other. You got a front end and kind of a back end, and then you bring the data science in there to actually find correlations with what people are doing on the front end with your application and what's going on with the business itself in the data warehouse. And you need to bring those data sets together, but you need someone who's more skilled and that has the time to do it, because it does get more complicated. So for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. That's the last question I had. Moshe, did you have any others?
No, I think we can wrap up. I really enjoyed this discussion, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us today, and for us the opportunity to learn more about Heap and to learn about you and about PocketSuite and what you guys are up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Hope this has helped. Definitely, it's been an honor.
Yeah. So where can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you or ask you more about it?
Yeah, feel free to, I would say, just shoot me an email. My email is dan@pocketsuite.io. It's POCKETSUIT.io.
Well, thanks again, and we'll talk to everyone later on. Thanks for joining Product for Product.
Take care, everyone.